how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with another episode in the Potential Prodigy series. If you guys are new, this is the series where I give you an in-depth scouting breakdown of different archetypes and different position groups. That way you can find more star and elite dev prospects, and you can have the CPU and your other online league mates fight over the normal dev / impact dev prospects. To continue on from last episode, we did the signal callers, and that one, I will have a playlist link to that episode and any others if you've missed in the description down below, and this episode will be on thumpers, not athlete thumpers, regular thumpers. Gotta make that distinction because all athletes I classify as different archetypes because their stats are different. The like goal for this video, we will set to the exact same as last time, 250 likes. All the numbers, stats, and analytics from this video will be dumped into the cheat sheet on the Discord. But Beastly, we don't know what the cheat sheet is. I got you, fam, I got you. So under the CFB 26 section of my Discord, as you guys can see right here, I do have the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet is, again, all the data, analytics, and a bunch of little stuff that I observe, basically to give you guys the numbers I crunch in these videos. That way you don't have to rewatch these long videos every single time you want the numbers. You can just go to the cheat sheet and find it very quickly. However, these videos do break down the numbers more thoroughly, and I do give you more content in these videos than what's on the Discord. So I highly advise you to watch the episodes, but if you don't want to, I understand. There you go, the numbers are in the Discord. So with all the intros and all the yapping getting out the way, what have you found with Mike / Thumper linebackers, basically? Well, to start with, they were probably my favorite archetype going into this series, going into this video to look at them. However, after further review, this archetype is just hot garbage statistically. And I got to make that clarification statistically. We'll cover the abilities and all sorts of other stuff later in the video. This video will be timestamped, so if you are looking for a specific section, you can find it. That way these longer videos are a bit more digestible in different segments, whether you're looking for the stat section, whether you're looking for the proof section, or you're looking for the ability breakdowns towards the end, and much more. But off rip, I did rank thumpers as my favorite going into this. However, after looking at the numbers, I'm immensely disappointed with the thumper archetype for many reasons. One reason I will give you very quickly is these guys have no consistent spawn. Actually, I lied. There is one consistent spawn rate I can give you, and that's speed. I have found a direct correlation with thumpers and speed, not athletic thumpers, regular thumpers. Thumpers, the fastest one you will find is 84 speed. The gentleman I have on your screen, Tyler Golson, the generational guy I love to show, as I pointed out in my live streams, shameless plug number 5,000, I know, but I do stream almost every single day on YouTube, and I'm now getting into more variety on my second YouTube channel and my Twitch, so I will have everything linked like those in the description and or on my channel homepage. So if you want to watch me play Sekiro and other non-college football games, tune into the Twitch and or the second channel. Well, yeah, I was very disappointed that speed was pretty much the only stat you could consistently use to determine if a regular thumper was good. I've seen, great thumpers with high hit power. I've seen them with low hit power. I've seen great thumpers with high zone. I've seen them with low zone. I've seen them with high strength. Like, it's kind of remarkable to me that the previous archetype, the signal caller, was so consistent, how there's basically 3 stats and you could boil those 3 stats down, which I don't advise, but you technically could, and get a very high pick rate of very good devs off 3 stats, whereas thumpers, the regular kind, don't have anything like that. I have seen elite devs spawn with low man coverage, with high man coverage, with low zone, high zone, low play rec, high play rec. The stat spread for these guys are all over the board, and if you have been an avid viewer of this series, you would know I would put the regular Mike thumpers into the same category as I would put the contact-seeking running backs, or the raw strength linemen, or the field corners. Basically, these are the archetypes where I wouldn't primarily go after them unless I know they're good, which is AKA 84 speed, or if there's a green gem. Right? There are some archetypes in this series that you just can't consistently scout because they're all over the place, and I feel like EA has done this on purpose because they're so good, which again, we'll cover on their abilities and stuff later on, but in terms of their raw stats, they're kind of disappointing. Another thing is that they should not be called thumpers. Very small snippet. I guess I will go ahead and put it in the section of the video. But the best signal callers on average had, looking at it between 85, 86, and 87 hit power. The best hit power a thumper had was 88. You are telling me EA, the archetype that has Thumper, which is to hit someone or to thump them in their name, but they have one more hit power than the Signal Caller. Now, I've not done the Lurkers yet or the Athletic Thumpers, but I would presume that Thumpers, by technicality, have the highest hit power of the bunch. But considering they're only beating Signal Callers by a singular hit power, very disappointing. It just makes no sense to me. Technically, this archetype should be rebranded as the 3-4 linebacker. I understand EA has gone away from the 3-4 linebacker and the 4-3 linebacker to where now they're the Sam, the Mike, the Will. They're using more football words, football vernacular. But realistically speaking, the base Mike Thumper is just a 3-4 linebacker. It's a linebacker who can pass rush off the edge and or play hard flats. That's kind of what they are. And they can also occasionally hit people, which is kind of weird that that they're called thumpers when realistically they're more of a 3-4 linebacker. But all that ranting, all that aside, what are the actual numbers, basically, and we can go from there. So here are the thumpers. Tyler Golson as the generational best guy I've ever found as the example. He has 76 awareness. Where that would rank him towards the upper percent, because the best I've ever found was 77 awareness, and the lowest I've ever found when doing research was 72. Tyler Golson's 84 speed, which, as I alluded to earlier, is the fastest I've ever found at 84 speed. The speed ranges for these guys can range from the high 70s, aka 77, all the way to the mid 80s, aka 84. Acceleration, he is 91. That ties him for, again, the highest I've ever found at 91, but the lowest I've ever found in terms of acceleration is 88, so there's only a 3 to 2 point gap there. Very small, very tight window. Kind of, I wish I saw more variety there. Strength, 87 strength, as you could probably guess, the best strength stat I've ever found for a Mike default thumping linebacker. The lowest I found, though, was 79 strength, so these guys are pretty strong all around the board. And lastly, to round out the left column, we have play rec of a 77. That is a few points away from perfection. The highest I've ever found was 79, and the lowest I've ever found was 74. Onto the rightward column, Tyler Golson has 82 tackle, which, you guessed it, tied him for the record of the best I've ever found of an 82. The lowest I've ever found was a 77. His hit power of an 88 is, again, already mentioned, but the highest I've ever found was 88. The lowest, surprisingly, was 81. I kind of would have liked to have seen the hit power on the upper side, the ceiling, raise a little bit, and I would have also kind of liked to see the floor raise a little bit. I think there should be more depiction between a thumper who's supposed to hit people and a signal caller who can also hit people, but is better stats, which we'll cover later on. But yeah, the range there was 81 to 88, which I really wish was higher. I wish the range was like 84 to like 95. That would have been cool, but no, it's 81 to 88. Pursuit of an 81, you guessed it, ties him for the best I've ever found of an 81. The lowest I've ever found was 76. His man coverage of a 67, again, ties for the best I've ever found. Tell me if you've ever heard me say that one before. But 67 being the highest I've ever found. The lowest I've ever found of a man coverage thumper was 60. Zone coverage of a 79 is actually not the best I've ever found. Shocker there. The best I've ever found there was at 82. However, their lowest is a 77. So he's basically right in that smack dab middle range of, 2 away from being mid or 2 away from perfection. So he's dead center. And we're going to cover these extra stats now. I may or may not show them later on in the video. But I also covered block shed, power move, finesse move, COD, agility, and catching, just because if you are using these linebackers, whether you're the user or you're blitzing them or what have you, there are other important stats that the game does not give you, which I figured I might as well cover here. The block shed ranges for these guys can vary between the low end of a 78 and the high end of an 83. The power move and finesse move for these guys have the exact same range, being 74 on the low end for each of them and 85 on the high end for each of them. So if you ever wonder why sometimes if you do an auto depth chart that your middle linebacker is your rush defensive end and your actual defensive ends aren't your defensive ends, it's because more than likely they came into the game with mid 80s for power move and finesse move. And because of their speed and block shed rating, EA values them more as an edge rusher than your actual edge rusher. So a little fun fact for you guys, make sure to check your depth chart. But yeah, their power move and finesse was actually quite high, especially compared to the signal caller brethren. Then we have their catching. Their catching is all over the place. These guys either have prime Cam Chancellor brick fingers with 50 catching on the low end, or moderately good catching of a 65 on the high end. So it's all over the place. It's a 15 stat range, which is ridiculous. Then lastly, to round things out, their agility is on the low end of a 76, their high end of a 79. tight 3-point spread there, and then their COD on the low end is a 77, and their COD on the high end is an 83. So these guys are decent users, but it's weird because if you're using them as a linebacker, you want high speed, high COD, high agility, high hit power, and these guys have the same hit power as signal callers. They're slower than signal callers. Their zone coverage is slightly better, but to equalize them takes like 12 points, right? Like to get a thumping linebacker up to the signal caller speed takes like 60 points, give or take 48 to like 65 tokens. But to get a signal caller to the same coverage stats as a thumper takes like 12, because the zone upgrades are significantly cheaper than the speed upgrades, and they're about the same hit power. And you know, even the block shedding stats, right? The signal callers did have less block shed, but not by a ton. So you would take a couple block shed upgrades and a couple upgrades in the zone department, and your signal callers have the exact same stats, if not better than thumper. So last time in the thumper video, I'll reference signal callers. I do apologize. It's just I had high expectations going into this video with the thumpers, and I left being very disappointed in their base stats. Now, their abilities, again, we'll cover on later on, but just wild range of emotions when coming out with these numbers. So this would be what a premier generational one looks like. I'm about to show you several examples, probably 10 to 15 or so, of what they look like, breaking them down, why they are the way they are, and we can kind of, you know, cover this portion of the video. So his fellow running mate in being Dylan Aldrich, as you guys can see, is a 5-star impact dev. But Beastly, why is he an impact dev? In my opinion, it's because of his speed. I think speed's the only real stat on these guys that you can truly matter, because if you guys look at the actual stats, zone coverage of an 80 is really good. That's only 2 points away from being perfect. Play rec of a 79 is also very perfect. Strength is so close to perfection. Pursuit's very good. His hit power is like a few points away from being perfect. He is just all, you know, great awareness, all these, you know, exceptional acceleration, all these wonderful stats, but he's 81 speed. So I don't think these guys are very consistent. I don't think these guys are worth going after. Again, if they're not absurdly fast, that seems to be the one and only tell, is their base speed stat, and or if they have a gem. If it's either of those two things, pursue them. But as you guys can see with Dylan Aldrich, this guy is a 5-star with mostly good stats for everything but speed, and he just sucks, which is kind of the trap with these guys. Okay, so for this next portion of the video, I have a bad 4-star to show you as an example, being Orlando Malik. Very quickly, we will cover his stats and why this guy is normal dev. His awareness is 74, which puts him only 2 points above the minimum. Speed is exactly dead center at 80. Could be 3 worse, could be 4 better, exactly mid-range. Acceleration of an 89 does put him 1 away from being minned out, but 2 away from perfection. Strength of an 82 puts him closer towards the minimum than the maximum. That's pretty bad. And then we have the play rec of a 75, which is 1 away from minning out. Tackling of a 78 is 1 away from minning out, and a 77. So very bad tackling there. Hit power is pretty good, 2 away from maxing out, but that's his first good stat. Pursuit of a 76 is also minned out. That's pretty horrible. Man coverage of a 60, minned out. Who would have thought? Pretty horrible. And then zone of a 78 is 1 away from minning out, which makes him pretty bad. So, like I said, with this archetype, you can find people like Orlando Malik who do suck, right? Who do fit the criteria of being bad, so I wouldn't advise you to pursue them. However, for every Orlando Malik who has bad stats with a bad dev trait, I can show you examples of guys with the same stats or similar stats, but with a good dev trait. So here would be an example of a 4-star who has the bad stats, who most people would skip on because he's objectively bad, but he has a good dev trait, which adds to the inconsistencies, and I would classify as more of a random spawn, but we will quickly cover his stats and why he would be classified as a bad linebacker. First of all, awareness of a 73 for Wayne McNary. That puts him 1 above the minimum. Speed, again, of an 80. Dead set mid-range. Acceleration of an 88 is the bare minimum, which is awful. Strength of an 81, which puts him at a few away from the bare minimum, 77 play rec's actually pretty good, but that's his first decent stat of the bunch. 77 tackle is horrendous. That puts him at the bare minimum. 84 hit power puts him at literally the dead center. 81 being the lowest, 88 being the highest, so he's exactly mid. 79 pursuit is not very good as well. He is a few away from perfection, but also a few away from minning out, so that's pretty bad. Man coverage is 1 away from minning out, and zone coverage is exactly minned out. So this guy is either below average or minned at everything, or if not, he's in the mid-range, and he's somehow a star dev. So as you guys can see, I'm going to keep showing examples, more and more of these, that I can show you examples of guys that have premier stats, and they look, they're normal dev and or impact dev, and I can show you guys that have horrible stats and they're elite dev and star dev. Again, with this archetype, it's very inconsistent. I would not advise you to go after them, again, unless they have absurd speed, which seems to be the only tell, or they do have a green gem. So that is, 4 or 5 examples from this draft class. Let's go ahead and show you another one. Here you can see another class with Sean Hedgie over here, who's a 5-star thumper, who is star dev. However, does he earn the star dev rating? Let's go ahead and quickly summarize and see if he does or doesn't deserve the rating. Awareness of a 76 is 1 away from perfection, so that's pretty cool. 82 speed is decent. That definitely puts him towards the upper percent, but again, most of these guys have 80, 81, 82 speed, so in the grand scheme of things, that's not very impressive, but 82 speed statistically puts him more towards the upper than the bottom. 91 acceleration is tied for the best. 84 strength is just a few away from perfection, so that's pretty cool. 78 play rec is 1 away from perfection, so strength very good, acceleration very good, play rec very good, awareness very good, speed could honestly be better. Tackling of an 81 puts him 1 away from perfection. Of an 82, hit power of an 85 is 3 away from perfection. Pursuit of an 81 is tied for perfection. Man coverage of a 65 is a few away from perfection. And then lastly, zone is 79 with a few away from perfection. So overall, as you guys can see, this guy, I guess I was a little more harsh on this guy than in actuality after reading his stats. He is pretty good at a lot of things. He is tied for perfection or is just almost there for a lot of things. However, he is missing 1s and 2s here and there, which I guess makes sense why he's a star and not an elite dev, because he is missing so many 1s and 2s. Next, we have his running mate, Steve Calcaterra. What I swear every video EA just hands me a live grenade and is like, here, decipher this. Hey, by the way, if you guys are still watching this far into the video, I appreciate you. Let me know if you're this far by leaving a little hammer emoji in your comment. And for the comment question of the day, what is your favorite linebacker archetype? Is it the signal callers? Is it the regular thumpers? Is it the athletic thumpers? Or is it the lurkers? Let me know down below, and also leave a little comment of a hammer emoji, and I'll know you've watched this far into the video. But his running mate, Steve Calc over here, as you can see, bad awareness, decent acceleration, bad strength, bad play rec, bad zone, good man, bad pursuit, bad hit power, bad tackle. This guy is bad, 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 bad. But as you guys can see, he has a green gem. If you could look at his speed, 84 speed, he's star dev. That is, again, the only consistent thing I've been able to track is that I have noticed all of the middle linebackers, whether they're 4 stars, whether they're 5 stars, but if they do have high speed, that does increase the chance pretty heavily of them having a good dev trait. Specifically, I've noticed with the number 84, I think every single linebacker I have found with 84 speed has been star or elite. Whether they're a 5-star or a 4-star, I have found linebackers, again, with crazy hit power, normal dev, crazy zone, normal dev, crazy everything, normal dev. However, speed, high dev trait, or a high chance of a dev trait. So that's kind of weird that speed's their most important stat. I would have liked to have seen other stats sprinkled in there, but unfortunately, I don't make the game. I just simply, play test and yada, yada, yada. Emmanuel Ehedibo, I feel like it's like the corner that's from Ohio State from a few years ago. Anyways, Emmanuel over here, he kind of would fit the description of someone that I mean. That's he is insane, incredible hit power of an 88, incredible acceleration of a 91, but bad strength, bad man coverage, good zone, bad pursuit, bad tackling, bad awareness. He has all these bads, but he is, decent speed of an 81. Again, would have liked to have seen that to have been higher, but he has really good hit power, really good zone, and really good speed, and he has a dev trait. But, for every one of these guys, there's 5 guys who have this similar description, but they don't, turn out so well. So gotta be careful, gotta be vigilant, gotta keep your eyes peeled, because you don't want to get fooled and to get some guy who's normal dev or impact dev and you're tied to him way too long. But Beastly, just go ahead and blindly recruit the 5 stars, as I always get comments from all these people who are always like, dude, just go get 5 stars. As you can see with Tarvarius Booker over here, he's a 5-star. Oh, but Beastly, he's a bust. Why would you recruit a 5-star bust? As, you know, it's always funny how, like, the goalpost always gets moved when I make these videos. There's always select comments from select people who are always like, well, obviously he's a bust, don't get him. But then you recruit the bust, and it's like, well, actually, he's a good bust. He's a star dev, which are, like, a 2% rate or whatever, just an astronomically rare chance to get star dev with bust. Most of the time they're normal or impact dev. I did a whole bust rebuild recently with LSU, can confirm, of like the 75 or so 4 and 5-star guys I've gotten who are bust. I think 4 or 5 of them were star dev, so the odds are very, very, very low. This guy, as you can see, is bad. I don't need the game to tell me he's bad. I knew immediately when I saw 78 speed, this dude was cooked. But Beastly, he's a bust. Whatever, move on. His other running mate at the Mike variety, Jaren Wall, as you can see, is also a bust. But again, I didn't need to see that he was a bust because he has 78 speed. This kind of also goes back to my point of being that speed seems to be the most important variable, because he's 86 hit power, which only puts him as 2 away from maxing out. And he has 80 zone, which puts him 2 away from maxing out. So he's a significant, you know, great zone, great hit power, great awareness of a 76, and great play rec of a 77. So for, you know, all those metrics, he's really, really, really good. However, the only metric that I think that truly matters is speed. He's 78, therefore I know he's a bust, but if there was no gem there, the moment you see 78 speed, you should run for your life, because there's no way this guy will ever be good at anything that he does. And that makes sense. Okay, Beastly, your regular Mike linebacker class of the Thumper variety is really bad. The 5-star sucks, the 4-star sucks. You got 2 busts in a row. It's just a bad class, I hear you saying. Well, guess what? As you can see with, I believe it's George Michaels over here, or maybe it's pronounced Jorge. I'm not going to assume names over here. But George Michaels, as you guys can see, is another bust. However, this bust kind of makes more sense, considering that he also has very low hit power, you know, zone. Good man, right? I'll give him that. Good man, bad strength, good acceleration, but those stats aren't too important. But yeah, not 1, not 2, but 3 busts. There are 6 total Mike Thumpers in this class, and half of them have been busts. This unequivocally goes down as the worst class I have ever seen. But wait, there's more. Boom, Max Donnerson over here is another bust. I am not trolling you. I specifically saved this class just to put in this video, because this might be the worst class I have ever seen. Bust, 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 bust. They are busting out here more than a certain man did for an island. Zinger. Let me go ahead and also, second comment question of the day. Is this the worst recruiting class you have ever seen with your own 2 eyes? Bust, 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 bust. 4 of the 6 available 4 and 5-star guys are all bust. They are horrible. Disgusting. It can't get much worse, right, Beastly? Right? Boom. The 5th guy is only impact dev. So we got 4 busts and an impact dev, which means 5 of the 6 people in this class are basically useless. This Thumper will take 3, maybe 4 years of development to actually be good, assuming he has proper, you know, the good skill caps. But it's not looking good. And then lastly, we have a walk-off slam dunk, a walk-off home run. Not even trolling, Melvin Lay was probably going to be the gentleman I used for the thumbnail for this video. He still can be, but Melvin Lay, I think, easily is probably the best overall linebacker I have done doing this, considering his 84 speed, great generational speed, 88 hit power, great generational hit power, great zone of an 80, and the rest of his stats are fine, right? They are what they are. But as for, in terms of a 4-star, like I've mentioned, every person with 84 speed I've seen has star or elite dev. I'm pretty sure speed is the only thing that matters for regular Mike Thumpers, which is kind of sad, because at least Signal Callers had more stats, but I have shown you probably, what, 10, 12 examples? I stopped counting a while ago, but this is going to be this portion of the video. And now let's get into the other fun portion, which is me showing you what they look like when they're actually on your team. What do those stats look like? And the abilities. Just to show you with the current class I have, I figured I might as well quickly go ahead and slip this into the video, but just as visual proof. Obviously, I didn't go through every single class, but as you guys can see, of the freshman class I just done, The highest one I had was 81 block shed, and the lowest I had was 78, which is pretty cool having high block shed. And then we have, you know, high power moves into decent power moves, and then high finesse moves, really high finesse moves, excuse me, at an 84 into pretty decent finesse moves. So for some reason with this archetype, I don't understand why, but EA gave them above average block shed, power move, and finesse move. And considering what their other stats are, you do need to be careful because the EA might make your middle linebacker end up playing defensive end, which, depending on who you are, you might prioritize stats. So, like, for example, Tarvarius Booker over here, who has 83 finesse move and 84 finesse move with 81 block shedding, that is, like, decent pass rush stats. But his problem is that he's 6'1", which puts him incredibly small for his frame, and he's only 239 pounds. And if you guys don't know, weight does matter a lot in this game. Weight contributes a lot more than what people think it does, especially into hit power, into interactions, and yada, yada, yada. But if there's an offensive lineman who weighs 100 pounds more than him, which, to be fair, is for Tarvarius Booker, there's not many offensive linemen who are 340 pounds. I have seen it happen, but there's not many. But if he does ever get matched up against an offensive lineman who is 100 pounds more than him, he will always be pancaked every play. There is a 100-pound weight gap requirement in this game, so that's why your linemen always pancake corners and safeties and such, because it's not because your corner and safety doesn't have enough strength or block shed, they just don't weigh enough, right? But before you get to the very end of that threshold of being a 100-pound weight limit, there are other factors at like 75 and 50 pounds. So most offensive linemen in this game are about 300 pounds, which would put them around a 60-pound advantage, give or take. And so, yeah, it's cool that he has decent speed and decent acceleration and agility and power movement. But the point I'm getting to is that if you go up against like a 6'7", a 6'8", 330-pound tackle with any decent stats, this dude's just going to get blocked. So I can see the draw or the lure of putting these guys at defensive end. It's just the issue is most of these guys aren't heavy enough and or they're not tall enough. Like a great example would be Jorge Michaels, which I mentioned earlier, or George. Not going to assume over here. But as you can see, he's 5'11", right? He's incredibly undersized. Even to play linebacker, 5'11" is still small, and he weighs 215. Most offensive linemen are at least 315 pounds. So if you ever tried to blitz George Michaels over here, I don't care that he has 78 finesse move. I don't care that he has 75 power move. I don't care that he has 80 block shedding. All of these stats don't matter because if he goes against a lineman who's 6'7", 6'8", 6'5", whatever, 316 pounds, the dude can't play the game. So you got to be careful. That's why I make fun of certain content creators who are always like, yeah, just throw him at defensive end, brother. No, not every linebacker can play defensive end. Another example, Joe's Shorter, or is this pronounced Hose or these names are weird. He's from Miami, so you really don't know with these guys. But Mr. Shorter over here is barely 6 foot. He really does put the word short in shorter. Not very good. And he only weighs 224. 224 is very undersized, right? So if I were to ever want to move any of these guys around, I would prefer them to be bare minimum like 250. I think when you start putting the like 230s and 220 guys at defensive end, you do notice significant downplay regardless of their stats. But I have a whole video covering that already in the series, or not in the series, but in general. If you want to go find it, it's in my How To Dynasty series. But we just covered the power move and finesse move and block shedding. Let's go show you examples of what they look like when you're on your team and then quickly cover the abilities. So normally I like click on the Y button or triangle for PlayStation, and I pull up their stats and we kind of go down it individually, but I can't do that because this guy's a pure freshman. I just recruited him. So I got to wait till next week to actually get him on my team for my Tulane Dynasty, which I streamed. This was a gameplay Dynasty we did like a month or so ago. We can quickly cover stats though, because the stats are pretty much all that matters. As you guys can see, 84 speed. What dev trait does he have? Elite dev, shocker, I know. Very good speed. Other key stat he has that's very high, 85 hit power. I would label that as very high, in my opinion, a few away from perfection. Upper tier percentile for block shedding, power move, finesse move, check, check, check. Good pursuit of an 80, good zone of an 80 as well. Great catching of a 61. Unfortunately, you won't really get most of that until they're on your team, sadly. And then lastly, to walk off with a strength, 86 strength is very good. This guy, as you can see, is upper percentile for everything. And as you guys can also see, he's elite dev in the bottom right corner. So first example for tray cutting, W name, 6'1", 238. He's actually a pretty decent linebacker. In a few years, he could be, pushing good DN, height weight, but decent linebacker, especially as a freshman, with blow up and hammer. But here's example 1 of what do they look like when they're already on your team, and do the stats match. Here you go. Here's Ernie Long, a 5-star freshman for the Cincy rebuild. As you guys can see, an elite dev thumper. Let's quickly go over his stats. Awareness, really good. Play rec, decent. Speed, 84. Noticing a trend with 84 speed again with regular thumpers. Not athletes, but regular thumpers. Good COD, decent agility. Good strength of an 85. Pretty, bad, more towards the mid. I can't really say bad, but, I would like to have better hit power personally, but 83, probably the worst we've seen so far for the good guys. Tackling, pursuit could be better. Block shedding, very good. Pass coverage, very good. Pass rushing stats, also decent. So again, just example number 12 million of just me recruiting, telling you to go after the guys with these stats, that they're pretty good. And I show you another example of a guy with these stats who, you guessed, it's pretty freaking good. And then lastly, to use the goated Eastern Carolina rebuild, which we've been doing this since the beginning of the year, another elite dev prospect, as you guys can see right here. I know it says Will. I literally just moved him from Mike to Will, so he's the only example I'm going to use where he's not in his actual position. But just know, a couple weeks ago, he was a Mike that I moved to Will. Kevin Vasquez, or is the Z silent? Anyways, Kevin over here, the gentleman who loves to hear me butcher names and have a field day with this episode. 6'1", 217, 5-star Mike linebacker. A bit small, but check out his speed. As you guys can see, 84 speed. Again, trend, note it. 84 speed. Go after the dudes. They're pretty good, assuming they have the other stats. 84 speeds like the green light, but he has good acceleration, decent stamina, decent agility, and good COD as well. Next, into the coverage stats. Good. I would say that's pretty good zone. Their bare min 77 and their highest 82, so that 79 is kind of like right in that smack dab middle. Decent man coverage of a 65. It's still not really good. Tackling of an 81, that's pretty good. Pursuit of 79 is fine, and then 80 block sheet is also fine. Very high play rec, very high awareness, check. Very high hit power, very high strength, check again, and also mid 80s for the power moves and finesse moves. So, as you guys can see, like I've mentioned, there's this trend, I feel like, where you could have high hit power, they could have good zone, good man, all these, other stats, and still be mid. But I've noticed a pretty consistent trend with 84 speed. It kind of feels like every person with 84 speed just so happened to be star or elite dev. So keep that in mind. Obviously, as always, I recommend going full picture. But if you want to just blindly scout by speed, I feel like you can consistently get away with it. Don't advise it, but you can if you're being super lazy. And now, last but certainly not least, let's go ahead and cover the abilities in this video, shall we? So to recap, they're very inconsistent to spawn. Their stats are kind of all over the place. You could have, decent stats and still be good, bad stats and be bad. It's all over the place. Why do I feel like EA made them kind of a inconsistent thing to scout? And that's because their abilities. I don't think I've ever given a single archetype a just all-around S-tier abilities where they don't have any bad abilities. This archetype, the Thumper linebacker, from head to toe, might have 5 S-tier abilities. And we're going to quickly cover them momentarily, but this is why I think EA made them inconsistent / bad, is because their abilities significantly carry this archetype. Quickly, we'll cover up wrap up. Wrap up, you basically can't get spun out / juked or spin moved by anyone, including people with platinum, 360 and platinum spin cycle or whatever it's called. This ability is really good, and plus, if you're conservative tackling, they can't break your tackle. So at platinum, you're basically unfake outable, and you can pretty consistently tackle everybody, which does kind of inherently go against the other ability he has called Hammer, which is for hit sticks. But like with the signal callers, how you got to kind of choose between either the hit stick or the conservative tackle. With these guys, you're going to always probably go for the hit stick due to another ability they have, which you guys can see right up there, right up below. We'll cover that quickly though. Hammer, increased chance to cause fumbles with platinum. Plus, I don't think unless they have tank, they can break out of your hit stick. So overall, pretty not great combo to have, but overall, whether you're conservative tackling or you're giving people kill shots, you're going to always be tackling them. So W, and considering this is tied to block shedding, which is going to be organically high, and considering this is tied to tackling, which again is going to be organically high, it won't be that difficult to get these to go up. Next, we'll quickly cover Grit Breaker while we're down here. Boost on lateral shed runs. Grit Breaker is a godsend on anyone who runs the ball. You can absolutely just toss tight ends, toss receivers, toss hell, even offensive linemen if it's high enough. Basically, if you do run the ball, this ability just makes your block shedding go up to 1,000,000. It's a great ability. It only unfortunately works on run plays. I don't think it works on RPOs. I could be wrong, but I think it's just run plays. But even then, you're going to have a guard or a center run out your middle linebacker, and this guy's going to just toss them out the way. Another reason why he's going to toss them out the way is because he has blow up, which was the signal caller's best ability from my previous video, and it's still an S tier ability. This ability is super funny, especially with Platinum. You have an RPO and like a receiver tries to block you, you just straight up annihilate them. If there's like a pulling guard on like a screen or a toss or a counter, you just pancake the guard, you pancake the center, you pancake the lineman. It's super funny with Platinum. Basically, no one can block you with impact blocks. S tier ability. As you guys can see, though, a trend with all these abilities, right? Tackling people, running the ball, all these abilities are centric more towards the run game, which I feel like if you don't want to call them a 3-4 linebacker, the other archetype would just be the run stuffer. I don't know why EA referred to them as thumpers. Rant for a different day. But last but not least, we have the creme de la creme. We have the single best ability, not just on them, but just in the game. I was a fool. I didn't know how much Aftershock changes how you play in the online Dynasty until I had a gentleman, shout out you, Wisconsin. I will never forget this. Literally, I will be speaking about your aura for years to come. There was a user I played 3 times in my first year of my online Dynasty. He had 3 or 4 people with Aftershocks being silver and gold. Nothing platinum, just silver and gold. And by the third and final time we played, I was down to my 5th string running back. My starting quarterback was basically dead because I played him so much and accrued so many hit sticks that my players were fatigued into oblivion, and I run with default sliders and default settings, so they were just dead. This ability can single-handedly destroy a dynasty. I am not exaggerating. If you get Platinum Aftershock, and I've only used this in testing. I've not got to actually use it in a practical sense of like the online dynasty I'm in or against a meaningful opponent, but I can tell you from first-hand experience, Gold Aftershock and Silver Aftershock, all it takes is 1 hit stick, and they're done. Another great example is my online dynasty that I played recently in the playoffs versus... who was it? I forget who I played in the semifinals, but I hit sticked his quarterback once. I had 1 sack, I had 1 hit stick, I touched their quarterback 1 singular time. That man dropped to about 60% fatigue and lost -10 stats after 1 hit. It was a linebacker I had with Silver Aftershock, and we teed off on him 1 time. And that 1 hit basically killed his quarterback for the rest of the game. It's very hard to win with a QB with -10 throw power, -10 throwing stats, -10 speed. That 1 hit literally killed him for the entire game. That's with Silver Aftershock. If that was Platinum, that 1 hit probably would have took him out of the game. So, blow up, S tier ability, hammer, wrap up. If they're used in the proper situations they are needed, S tier abilities. Grit Breaker, S tier ability. But Aftershock is just like a quadruple S. I really don't know how Aftershock was allowed to stay in this game, given the fact that EA absolutely nerfed Takeoff and they nerfed Quick Jump. But Aftershock was just left untouched from CFB 25. If you want to be an absolute menace to society and or your online leagues, run an entire defense of nothing but Aftershocks, and you will see what I'm talking about. There are some nickel sets, there are some 3-3-5 sets, there are some playbooks where you can basically sub linebackers at your defensive line. You can sub safeties at linebacker. You could run safeties, obviously, at safety and safeties at corner and legit have 11 people on defense with Aftershock. It's a disgusting thing. It's horrible. And if your commissioner doesn't change the fatigue settings, you could legitimately make people not play in the league ever again. You can legit take freshman running backs, freshman quarterbacks, freshman whatever, and if you play them enough in 1 year, have their career stamina cut so short because they're constantly getting teed off with Aftershock. That does pair very well with Hammer. That pairs with the, blow up / grip breaker for the run game. And even if, which is funny because it says, as you can see, big hits produce increased wear and tear. I have noticed Aftershock also triggers on conservative hits. As long as you have Aftershock and you touch the player, they are going to lose fatigue, which I don't think is how the game was meant to be played. I think it's a bug. I think it's supposed to be hit sticks, but either way, just does not matter what you upgrade on these linebackers. If you could have 5 platinum abilities, I would recommend it. But again, that's why I think EA kind of hard nerfed their base stats, is because if you have someone who's running around with platinum Aftershock, platinum Hammer, platinum blow up, platinum grip breaker, they're basically unguardable. It's an actual cheat code, which is another thing. I know that I don't ever cover like height and weight in these videos, but I've noticed also that thumpers are a bit shorter. If you could find like a 6'6" or a 6'5" thumper who's like between like 235 and like 245 pounds as like a freshman, best player in the game. Legit best archetype, best abilities, best stats, best height, best frame, but their frame, their size kind of holds them back along with their base stats. But either way, so that's my video on thumpers. Let me know down below what you think of this video. 250 likes, I will update the cheat sheet with these archetypes. And yeah, guys, look, I can give out our shout-outs. As always, huge shout-outs to all you beautiful bastards. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for taking time out your busy schedules, out your day to watch my content, pull up to the streams, pull up to the Discord. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, give me a follow, or sub on Twitch. I'd greatly appreciate that. And if you can, please become a member. Members get early access to all my content, whether it's a few hours early, a few days early, or as was for December/January of last year/this year. They got videos a whole month early, so become a member. Plus, you get perks in the Discord and perks in the streams. So I appreciate you guys. Shout out to all the members, as you guys can see on screen right here. You guys mean a ton to me. I appreciate y'all. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Deuces.